footsteps of my King.
We were talking about setting this interview up. You had mentioned that you were going to be doing another 40-day fast.
Right.
And I think the last time you were on, you had just completed a 40-day fast. So I definitely want to talk a little bit about how that kind of happened. But I'm curious to kind of start, like, what was the because typically people do a 40-day fast. You did one already last year. What made you want to do another one?
Boy, let me condense it into the 5-minute version instead of the long version. And people, if they're interested, they can find this fasting documentary on our YouTube channels, or actually Amazon Prime just picked it up, I think about 6 months ago, under 40-day fasting. So I want to let people know I don't recommend that necessarily. It's something as a pastor that God put on my heart a long time ago. And I've been I was avoiding it and for years. And when you study it and read it like you do, a lot of your listeners are well educated on, the benefits of fasting. Many of us, myself included, have enough stored energy to where we'll be fine. So I finally took a leap of faith, and it was mainly just water only. But when I had to preach 3 times on a Sunday, I'd bring some grapefruit juice or something. And we've talked about it. You don't want to get so legalistic,
right?
That, I've got kids at home, I've got engagement. So it was mainly just water, but then I would have a little bit of juice or bone broth or Manuka honey, with some tea or something, just to get through certain events. And so I came out of it 37 pounds lighter, even though that wasn't the goal. But to answer your question, number one, God put on my heart so much confirmation in the Bible. And I finally just stepped out in faith, because I think, as a Christian, that plays a big role, because without faith, it's impossible to please God. And faith is the evidence of things not yet seen, but you're kind of trusting God. So I stepped out in that, but it was calling a corporate fast for our nation. And that's what the documentary really focused on, how far we've drifted as a nation, the division in our nation. We should be able to just come together and be broken before God. And so that really prompted it. And it was a corporate fast. So I let people know in our congregation all across, we've got a pretty big national ministry, and it was a time of seeking God like never before. And I came out of that, and a couple of months later, this might sound funny to some people, but I just sensed, like, as I'm reading the Bible and praying, okay, that fast was for others. Now I want you to fast for me and my relationship with you. And we've got some big things we're still praying about. I can't really, discuss right now. And I just, oh Lord, no, you can't, you got to be kidding me. And out of the blue, a friend of mine said, hey, have you read this book about, I don't remember the pastor's name. Oh, I think it was Jerry Falwell Sr., not the junior one. And where he did 2 40-day fasts back to back, maybe a month later. And then God answered this provision of financial, like millions of dollars came in to fund the university. So the timing of that was kind of interesting. I'm like, oh man, okay, but Lord, I need more confirmation. And so I kind of hem and hawed for a while, gain some weight back, because that's a daunting process. You've got to know that you're prepared for it. But I love fasting. I love getting to bed, without anything on my stomach, the deep sleep, the intimacy with God, and the starving of the flesh. I just love it. So I finally, and that's when I contacted you. I said, hey, Chris, I think I'm doing another one. And when was that? Like January? I think, I don't remember exactly. So yeah. I'm 3 weeks into this, and I just gave up. And I'm like, man, well, at least we can encourage, your viewers to fall forward. What does it mean to get back up on track? Because I look at this, my relationship with God and fasting, it's not about perfection. It's about direction. So we're going to stumble, we're going to fall. And I tell people, listen, okay, it took you 2 months instead of 1 month, but look at the progress you've made. Look at how far you've come. And so I think people just need encouragement. And so it was a struggle. All kinds of hell broke loose. And that's normally what knocks people off track, right? You know that the stress is that's why these fasting clinics. I talk to Alan Goldhammer sometimes on email up at his clinic, and then you've got other clinics down in Costa Rica, and these people can just come and do nothing, no kids and relax. And so stress plays a big role. So I was just being bombarded by a lot of things. I lead our ministry. I lead the church. I've got kids at home and married to a wonderful wife. And so, it kind of, stopped a lot sooner than I wanted it to.
Yeah. It's man, you touched on a lot of great points here. You know, consistency is it's the saying, consistency is key. And
Yeah.
I actually talked about, you say fall forward. I actually did a video called Fail Forward. You
Oh, I
know,
like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's perfectly in alignment, because people will, say, okay, I'm gonna do 40 days. I actually in December, I actually did a fast, and my goal, so I did a little bit different. My goal was to allow the community to donate, and then based on donations, I would fast
Mm,
longer. And I think I was supposed to do 15 days or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but I was having a really hard fast. And
yeah.
my fasts have always been a little bit different from other people. Like, they're already always really intense,
Hmm.
almost throughout the entire thing. I don't necessarily get those breaks of euphoria as frequently
Yeah.
as other people.
Yeah.
And so this fast was particularly intense, and I knew my liver was doing a lot of flushing and a lot of cleansing.
Yeah.
And I pushed, and I think I pushed myself too hard. So when I
Hmm.
broke my fast, because I didn't realize how hard my body, this is all in retrospect, I didn't realize how hard my body had been working. Even though I did my refeed, my refeed wasn't light enough. I ate too
Yeah.
much too
Yeah.
fast.
My
Even
problem all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's
it
one.
it it caused me some severe liver
Hmm.
pain, which was it's the worst pain that I ever experienced in my life, honestly.
Yeah.
But it was a blessing, because I was able to have that experience, and now I'm able to pass that information on.
Hmm.
So even though I didn't necessarily, hit my quote unquote goal, maybe I want to do 30 days or whatever the case
Hmm.
may be, I learned a lot from that experience.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. And you motivated others. And I don't know if you knew this or not, but really what final nail in the coffin was for me to start that first 40-day fast was the gentleman you had on. Just a great heart. I really loved his heart. He lost 100 pounds. I think he was on a 100-day fast. Um, Probably 5 years ago. I think that even says it in your YouTube title, 100 pounds. So when I watched that okay, I can do this. It wasn't morbidly obese, but I could
mm,
I could definitely lose some weight. You got reserves. And then also it's where God has me. It's part of like what he's called me to do to help people in this area of fasting. And that's why I don't know if you knew, but both of my books on fasting are actually available as free downloads on our church website at westsidechristianfellowship.org. They can just go, they can download the books for free on fasting, my experience, all the questions, from autophagy to can I drink this? Can I eat this? Can I exercise? I just nailed it all down in those books. And so your channel motivated me when I started that about a little over a year ago.
yeah, that was like the whole reason I created the channel. It was
Yeah.
literally the whole reason, spreading awareness. And then I was thinking, how can we encourage and motivate people? Because, I'm just me, and my
Yeah.
experience is my experience. And people are like,
Mhm.
they're like, you've always been skinny, da da da. I'm like, not really, but okay. And
Right.
I started bringing people on, and those testimonials to this very day are the like most popular videos that I
Yeah,
do.
for
I'm
sure.
gonna make sure that the links for your book are in the description, as well as your
Okay.
documentary, so people could check that out.
I grew up kind of being bullied a little bit, poked fun of, a little bit chubby, dyslexia, learning disability, reading disability. So it was
Mm,
a hard little childhood. And that's why I turned to, I've talked about my testimony, turning to alcohol and just the prodigal son on a highway to hell. And God brought me back. But I got involved with steroids too, a lot of the
mm,
injecting and pills, and because that self esteem. And
yeah,
so I had a background in health and fitness now many years. And now I find it's coming full circle. Now you want to help people. It's not about big and bulky. It's about
yeah,
lean and fit and healthy inside.
flexible, yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of a little bit of my background as well.
Well, we could dive a little deeper into that because
Okay.
I think people's background, their history really shows who, like, how did they get to the place they are now. So,
Right.
were you when you were younger, like, were you always kind of the chubby kid, or what was your upbringing
Um, yeah, well, yeah, I would say my dad called me lead britches. 'Cause I had lead in my lead
like?
britches. Um, and I remember I'll never forget, I wanna go to storage and see if I can find it, but there was a picture. I broke my leg in junior high, and they put me in this wheelbarrow, or not a wheelbarrow, like one of those red wagon carts, and then
Mm,
underneath the picture, it said "stuffed pig" because I had an apple in my mouth, and they were
wow.
and
Oh,
I mean, it was kind of a joke, and I really wasn't that obese, but just kinda, a little chubby and chunky, and so, man, it was just that's and so but we all have scars of our own, maybe too skinny, 4 eyes, too chubby, stupid, and so I was called a lot of those names, and that turned into the anger and
mm,
alcohol addiction, steroid abuse, and that's why they call it roid rage and an angry man. And God really just drew me back in my 20s, and so yeah, I think how we're treated as kids plays a huge role, because words carry weight. Life and death
yeah.
are in the power of the tongue and what we tell people, and that's why we need more channels like this to encourage people in their walk and just in fasting and their faith and fitness. It's so important to me. They're all intertwined. When I see
Mm,
somebody doing good spiritually, the physical is often affected. When somebody's doing good physically, the spiritual is often affected. They're interwoven.
mhm,
For example, if I eat terrible and I get 4 hours of sleep, I can't preach very good.
mm,
Or, what about if you take a Xanax before preaching? Well, that's not going to work very good. You see, the physical and the spiritual are connected,
yeah.
and they affect one another. If I'm doing good spiritual disciplines, I can do good with physical disciplines. But when I just give up, like I'm just get me to Starbucks, get me a Krispy Kreme donut. I'm gonna stop by fast food. Then I don't want to read the Bible. I don't want to apply spiritual disciplines. It's all really interwoven, for
Mhm.
sure. I mean, the spiritual is more important, obviously, but I've seen over the years and pastoring people that there's a connection there. When you're strong in one area, you can't be strong in the other area.
Yeah. And when you're weak in another area, it may show weakness in another area. So people, oftentimes, one thing about the brand AHA as a brand, I wanted to make sure that we didn't niche down too much, that we had room to talk
Right.
about more than just simply fasting or weight loss and things of that nature. And fasting is a very spiritual journey. And I've
Right.
noticed personally that it perpetuates health holistically. So when I started
Hmm.
fasting,
Hmm.
I knew I was weak spiritually. I knew that. And
Right.
because when I fasted, it was one of the things that I wanted to focus on. And as I started to improve physically, my spiritual development like exploded, just
Hmm.
almost automatic, like just automatically as a consequence. So
Right.
it's important to identify the areas where we're not doing well, focus our intention there, because it'll
Right.
help us holistically, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Well, and fasting does a wonderful thing in that, I mean, the greatest enemy we have, even though it's a blessing to eat and things, but the greatest enemy we have is within us, our own,
mm,
what I refer to as the flesh, the carnal man, that old nature, that my flesh wants to eat too much. It wants to
mhm,
drink too much. It wants to sleep in. It wants to be lazy. And we're actually finding in the fitness industry now that sitting is the new smoking, because your body was designed to have stressors. It was designed to get up and move and do things. And if you don't do that, and so the flesh just wants everything easy. Feed me, feed me, feed me. And if I'm like most of your listeners, I just eat too much. If I could
mm,
stop eating after 5 o'clock, I'd be great.
yeah,
But that's when the glucose levels rise and the sugar and just a comfort food. And so fasting really helps me bring all of that into submission,
mm,
and really just grow both physically and spiritually, because the physical benefits you talk about all the time are just incredible, and so the spiritual benefits are as well, and so that's
mhm.
interwoven again. It's all interwoven. It's incredible.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you because you had mentioned that you were dealing with, steroid abuse and things of that nature.
Right.
What um what were some of the things that came along with some of the negative impacts of using steroids? Because I've heard about it. I've heard about roid rage.
Mhm.
It's not my wheelhouse at all. I don't know anything.
Right, right. Well, what we found and what you're finding now is it's who does somebody want to be like? You know, they want to be like Kanye, or do they want to be like Jay-Z, or they want to be like The Rock, or this, you know, this guy that's been popular, the Liver King. I mean, I knew he was doping. I could tell you what he was on just looking at the guy. And so it's the image, and you want this and bigger, stronger, and, you know, look at their superheroes. And so it's a
Mm.
self-esteem issue.
Mm.
Really, it's like, you know, I want to be this, and I want to be a famous YouTuber. I want to be big and strong to crush my bullies. And so it really comes from self-esteem. And I just had a guy introduce it. I was probably 18 and said, "Hey, try these little pills." And it's called Dianabol. It's a little blue pill. And what it does, it's called androgenic anabolic steroids. Androgenic meaning male hormones, you know, testosterone, and anabolic means growth. And it's that type of steroid. So as you're taking it, your muscle cells don't actually multiply. That would be something like growth hormone. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Yeah.
I took that as well. HCG. And so your muscle cells, and that's why like creatine is popular. It's a cell volumizer. It volumizes. It pushes liquid into the cell, so you look stronger. And so these steroids, you know, I get stronger and stronger, and then I could arm wrestle these guys that were, you know, at my dad's work, these contractors, and just beat them at 18, 19, and then, you know, just I came from an angry home. My family came from my dad's side from the farms, and just, you know, and that's how they got things done, just anger and tough, and, you know, boy, you don't cry kind of thing. And so I wanted to please my dad and be big and strong and beat up people. But what it does, then, it shuts down your natural production of testosterone. And so that's why they kind of tease people sometimes. Your natural production of testosterone will kind of swell up a little bit. You know, it'll decrease because you don't need it anymore. You're taking a synthetic,
Right.
And then estrogen will build up here. It's called gynecomastia. And that's why your breasts start to kind of look like women. And then you have to have surgery to remove it. And and then you can take other stuff that's from the, you know, urine of a pregnant woman to get rid of that. It's just a mess. So it affects you. Also, you weren't designed, I think, to have this much. Then I would worked up to injections, giving myself my own injection, my hip, you know, like testosterone and sustanon and you know, these different testosterones. And then you're putting all this testosterone into your body. So men are already, you know, kind of aggressive. You know, I think we're designed to be watchmen and to be warriors. And, you know, if there's a loud noise at night, my kids come and get me. They don't come get my wife. Right. And so there's this natural way that God made us, this great balance of estrogen and testosterone. And so when you're injecting and putting in way too much testosterone, you know, male pattern baldness will increase. Acne's huge all over my back. And so that's why it's called roid rage. You rage. I mean, you just, things that you normally get a little irritated at. Like I remember grabbing a door and just ripping it off the hinges in my house and punching holes in the drywall. And you're just so angry because it multiplies everything that testosterone does. It basically multiplies that. And then even as men get older, they get into, you know, hormone replacement therapy. And they'll start it in taking, which, you know, you got to consult with your doctor, but there's natural ways to bring that up. Anytime you go synthetic, you know, you can really run into some problems. And then also elevated testosterone, elevated growth hormone, and steroids will also, you know, can cause your heart to really grow. You know, it can affect it can affect your organs, especially if you're taking growth hormone. You know, and things can really enlarge your heart. And then, you know, I grew up, like, I don't know if you ever watched Ronnie Coleman's documentary. You know, he was really big in bodybuilding, Mr. Olympia, and just see where they're Dorian Yates, and you see where their lives now, you know, it really wrecks your body because you weren't designed. And I wasn't even nearly that big. I mean, these guys, they're monsters.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. And so your body's not designed to you have to stay within God's design with what type of diet you do, what type of supplements you take. Is it God's design? And so that was, and I learned to all about steroids and reading blood work, you know, HDL and LDL levels and triglycerides, and what does this mean and what's going on in my body. And so now I just try to help people with it. But yeah, it could have taken off a lot of years in my life. I don't know yet. But I'm trusting in God and not really too worried about that.
Well, I think the fasting is helping to restore those
Right.
years, because
Absolutely.
The thing about the body is it's designed in a way that it really can repair virtually any damage that we do if we can
Right.
catch it soon enough, if we can give it the resources and things it needs. I'm learning about the regenerative ability of the body every day. It's really amazing. One thing that really like shocked me was how much of the liver you could lose, and the body will restore it. And I think that, not enough information is mainstream about the body's ability to restore other organs and other systems, especially with modern man, because, we are so much more toxic than we could ever like
Oh,
realize.
oh,
You know what I
bad.
mean?
Yeah.
Though I did a video talking about how they are injecting. Well, they're not injecting. They are. I think basically they're going to be putting the MMR or the COVID vaccine or
I heard that.
some new vaccine in the food now.
Into the beef, yeah, into the cows, chickens.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't researched it yet because I don't really want to, but I hope it's a conspiracy theory because that's not even how, regardless of your view on vaccines, it's probably like mine. But when you have an RNA messenger, it's sending a message to the DNA to create a certain spike protein. How you're going through an animal, you're ingesting that protein. That's like a long shot if I've ever heard one. If you just know immunology and how the body fights viruses and how it produces these things to defend, that doesn't even make sense, really, how they're proposing to do this. So I hope that's not the case, but I've been hearing it too. I just haven't looked into it.
Yeah, it's rough, right? I think
Yeah.
there's a couple things, it sucks because you don't want to believe it, but let's just assume that it is the case. It's not
Right.
like everything is lost. I think what
Right.
it'll do, if we can get enough people to understand what's going on, we could go back to our farmers markets, our local farmers. We used to
Yeah.
there was farms everywhere 100 years ago.
Absolutely.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If we could, you said you grew up on a farm, right?
I didn't, but my dad did. Yeah.
Okay. If we could get back to that, it would correct a lot of our illnesses, because
It
you
would.
know we are. They're saying that we're living longer, but we're living basically on
Quality.
life support. The
Yep.
quality, right?
Yeah.
Whereas
Good.
our grandparents, our great grandparents, the centurions from their era were just like, they were fine. They could remember things. They could wash their own butt. Like it's a
Yeah.
completely different thing.
And they
And
would die. They would die at 85 or 90 just in their sleep. And they actually worked maybe the week prior.
Mhm.
It was just amazing. That's how we're designed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
So
can maybe even speak to that real quickly too, Chris, if it's okay. On the
good.
that's why people ask me a lot, hey, does fasting reverse aging? And I never say, no, it doesn't reverse it. What it does is it slows it down. So let's say you're going 100 miles an hour, it drops you back down to about 35,
Mm.
because the body, and I did when I researched for the fasting books, our cells are, like you said, the reason the liver and everything can repopulate, really what it's doing, it's creating new cells.
Right.
It's creating new cells, and that's why fasting begins to bring in the process of autophagy and creating stem cells, and these stem cells can be then used to repair the liver. But even if we're doing all that we can do, there's still a process against us that is greater. The force is greater than what's. As a Christian, I believe obviously what God's word says on him giving us a certain amount of years, but you can really slow it down and your quality of life. And that you hit the nail on the head. The last 10 years, nursing homes, injected with IVs, kept alive with all of these things, that's not living.
Mhm.
And we've created this environment. Think of what are the top three killers and really hurting America right now? Diabetes, right? Heart disease, cancer. How many of those are diet related?
Yeah.
And even with cancer, people say, well, it's genetics, and in my family, genetics might load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger.
Yep, 100%.
And so, you can in epigenetics, the study of genes switching and transferring, you can actually, okay, maybe genetically that's in your history, but you can unwind that genetic programming
Mhm.
through fasting and nutrition and things like that. And you don't have to live with that death sentence.
Yeah, Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about this, because funny thing about science is we all know that scientists are constantly moving towards a better
Mhm.
answer, but for whatever
Mhm.
reason, we forget in the moment and we think, okay, this is the best we know now, so it's 100% correct. And
No,
so for a long
exactly.
time, we've been taught that the
Exactly.
genes have so much control. And what Dr. Bruce Lipton was saying is that we have the ability to essentially rewrite our genetic code.
Right.
And it's important to understand you have that power, because
Mhm.
if you just believe what you've been taught, then you will continue to perpetuate those
Mhm.
diseases and send them to the next generation. So,
Right.
um,
Yeah, it's so true. Epigenetics is a study of gene because what it is, it's our genes respond to the choices we make. So
mhm,
microbiome, gut bacteria, how much serotonin is produced there, and your immune system has a lot to do with gut bacteria, and these
mhm.
trigger your genes to do certain things, and so we can really, it really turn a lot of these things around. They're not perfect, of course, and the healthiest people I know sometimes get cancer, and who knows what the future holds, but we do know that we can really slow down a lot of this.
Yeah. And also, you don't live your life thinking, "Oh, Imma die anyway." That's not the way you live your
Right.
life. You live your life, with the thought, "Okay, I'm going
Mhm.
to live a long time. So what do I want my
Right.
quality of life to be when I get older?" You don't think, "Oh, Imma get
Mhm.
hit by a bus tomorrow, so I might as well live fast and die young." Like,
Right.
because what happens when that bus doesn't come? And a lot of people, I used to have a foreman when I was an electrician, and this guy, he was a real cool dude. He's a young guy. He was probably in his 30s at the time. And he was like, "Man, I think he told me he doesn't want to live past 50." And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Why?" And he was just like, look at people in their 60s and 70s. Look at their
Mhm.
quality of life. He's so scared of the quality of life from, older people that he's like, "I'd rather
Mhm.
just die young, you know what I mean, and just have a
Right.
lot of fun."
Well,
Mhm.
they don't understand that, and I just answered this question recently. People don't understand, well, I want like, they'll say that, "I just wanna have fun, enjoy my life," and I got it, I understand that, but you're really not enjoying your life when you just throw caution to the wind. You're not disciplined. "Now I'm overweight, now I can't enjoy my kids." Some people can't
Mm,
enjoy their grandkids, they don't have enough energy to get off the couch. In church, a lot of people aren't serving because they have no energy. It affects your job quality, it affects your productivity, it affects your whole life. So you're not really enjoying life and having fun when you're allowing your body to self-destruct. It's just it's a painful process. That's why I used to say when I used to teach on health and fitness, you either experience the pain of discipline or you experience the pain of regret.
that's
You
good.
know, those are where we're now. But again, to encourage people, because nobody listening is perfect. I haven't mastered this area. We fall often, but we get back up and we keep going in the right direction. And that forward momentum seems to produce a lot of joy because okay,
Mm.
I'm back on track. I'm back on track. I know what I need to be doing. Yes, I messed up last Friday night, but God, thank you. And that brings joy comes from following what you know to be right,
Mhm.
and it's so important.
Now that right there is key, because it's easy to get like lost in the despair. People get so down on themselves. "Oh, I messed up. I didn't do it." Da da da. Da." And
Hmm.
it's like, it's kind of like that old thing. Is the glass half empty or is it half full? When you
Right.
have the right perspective on life, and this is something I've been working on for years at this point. I do my best not to see good and bad. I just look at it, experience. It's an experience that I can learn and
Hmm.
I can grow from.
Right.
And so you still have those thoughts of, "Oh, I failed," or whatever, but I nip it. I just nip it
Yeah,
right
you have
there.
to.
And you know
Yep.
what I mean? And I reframe my thoughts, because your thoughts, people don't understand like the effect that your own thoughts have on your body. And
Right.
this is back to the epigenetics and things of that nature. If you're thinking negatively the majority of
Hmm.
the time, the majority of your life, you're going to have negative outcomes, not just health wise. I mean, just through the
Hmm.
process of the nocebo effect and the placebo effect, we see how powerful thoughts are. Where you give somebody this experimental drug or whatever, or a sugar pill, we'll say, and they think it's going to cure their disease, and it's just a sugar pill, but the disease gets rectified through the power of thought. Versus, and then on the other side, you could think that you have an illness, and you can manufacture it even though it was never there to begin with. So we have to definitely work on being positive, thinking positive. And it sounds like cliche, but at the end of the day, it's important. And I remember when I was younger, they had that old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And it was like, it's one of the most destructive things that they've taught us, because words are infinitely more powerful than most people could have ever, imagined. But before you ever say anything, you think it. So your thoughts are just as powerful.
True. And even reason, from a biblical perspective, the Bible reminds us to take our thoughts captive to the obedience of Christ for that very reason, because I've got all these thoughts coming, and if I don't take them captive and say, nope, that's not right, that's not right. This is now what people, I think, will really help too, is they need to understand it's not just, meditating and thinking happy, positive thoughts and looking at poppies. What it does, there's a chemical reaction in the body. And that's so taking the thoughts captive and joy and focusing, what it does with the chemical reactions. So now the heart rate slows down, the cortisol level is decreased, epinephrine is, and so you have all these chemical things. So when you get angry and you're stressed, the chemical reaction, adrenaline and cortisol, it's taxing the heart, it's hurting the heart. And I don't remember what the study was, but if you take someone who's angry a lot and stressed, the heart rate, let's say, is at 95, 100 a lot, versus someone whose heart rate's at 70, their heart rate is beating 100 million times more in their lifetime. And so it's not just thinking positive thoughts to think it, it's actually what happens chemically. And the immune system is fighting for your body, and these thoughts of joy and love and peace. And that's why, I promote such a relation with God so heavily, because that's where it truly comes from. And those thoughts actually produce things in your body. The immune response is, and you've got everything is responding to restore life to the body. But when these dark, angry, unforgiveness, let's talk about unforgiveness, how it's a root of just what it does in your body, the chemically. And that's why it affects people. It's not just, I think people, once they know that, I'm having actually chemical reactions, adrenaline and cortisol, these things that are okay for fight and flight quickly, but you don't want to stay there. You don't want to stay there all day. I don't want my adrenaline, people say I'm an adrenaline junkie. I like roller coasters. Well, I'm a serotonin junkie. I like just relax and, and enjoy life. So that's why those thoughts are so important, and not being bitter and unforgiving, because they can just weigh you down. I've seen as a pastor, people actually be healed and set free once they let those negative emotions just go. They begin to cry like a baby. They're at the altar, and God just begins to restore even their health, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. It's incredible to watch, but it's hard because our pride gets in there, right? I can't let this go. And you think you got the other person, but really they got you. Because you're not letting this go. And so it is amazing how powerful our mind is. As a man thinketh, so is he. It's who we really are.
That was, man, I'm glad you brought that point up, because people need to understand that it's more than just, like you said, thinking happy thoughts. The chemistry of the body, everything is like a chemical. Your feelings, your emotions, it all creates, balance or imbalance. And it's funny because even the people that you spend a lot of your time with, if you're around, I talk about consumption a lot, what you put in your mouth, what you put in your mind, what you see, but also the people that you consume. If you're around a certain type of person, if you're around people that are always angry, if you're around people that are always jealous, et cetera, this is also going to impact you as well. And so it's crazy, because you think, when you really look at it, it's like, oh my God, I have to like really look at this from a lifestyle standpoint. You know what I mean? Who I'm consuming, what I'm consuming, my clothes, my music, everything like that. And it feels daunting. But what I try to encourage people, don't look at it like this huge insurmountable mountain that you have to climb. Just look at the footsteps. It's just one foot in front of the other.
Mm-hmm.
It's one. Okay, maybe today or this week you
Yeah.
focus on your diet, and then maybe a month from now you focus on your music, and maybe 2
Mm-hmm.
months from now you start to look at your friend group and weed those
Right.
people out. And over time, as you're making progress, you're doing making these healthy changes. It gets easier,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
the quality of life goes through the roof. So it doesn't. It's not like daunting anymore. It's almost fun. And I mean, you
It is.
mentioned,
Yeah.
it's joyful as you start to pursue like real
Rewarding.
wellness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and people, we're really educated on our toxic environment, out here, but you just hit the nail on the head. They forget about the toxic environment of what we allow up here, because it's called entertainment for a reason. What entertains us, it shapes our thinking. It shapes our mindset, the people coming around us. This is all things that help shape who we are and how we think. And as a man, as out of the abundance of the man's heart, his mouth is going to speak. And we become, that's why the Apostle Paul said that finally, brethren, wherever things are pure and honest and noble and upright, meditate on these things that are good and of good report, because it really changes your outcome. You get through life. It's not easy. I mean, life is challenging, but you get through life with this peace and this assurance and this joy versus just drudgery every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And then we all know that leads to overconsumption. That leads to eating to the wrong foods, drinking the wrong things when we're not feeling well, and I also wrote a book on addiction. Help, I'm addicted. And that one it's a free download too. But I talk about HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Those are usually the 4 things that take somebody back into addiction. And that works with food as well. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired, moody. And those things really trigger eating as well.
It's interesting because I find that people, when they need other people, when they need the support of other people, that's when they draw back. It's like they
Right.
don't feel worthy of being in the presence of somebody who is positive or that can impact them in a positive way. It's like they just want to recede back. And it's like when you want to recede, that's the time that you should be moving forward and expanding and
Right.
being intentional about who's around you, because
Mm-hmm.
as human beings, like we're made to be with each other.
Right.
I think,
Felt
there's certain people that are called to maybe, live a certain lifestyle, but for the mass majority of us, we need other people,
right.
And being alone is a big problem. I mean, even, we see the studies with children, like young infants and stuff, that don't
Mm-hmm.
get love. They don't receive love from their mother. Even though they're being nourished, even though they have a shelter and clothes and stuff, if they're not
Yeah.
receiving love, they die, like
Yeah.
literally die. And I think that speaks volumes. And it's funny because what happens in the macro world also happens like within us. And we talked about the micro
Mm-hmm.
organisms inside of us. They need love too. And where do they get their love from? They get their love from basically from you. You love them. You feed them what they need to be fed
Right.
to be healthy and happy. You speak life into them. And like one of the things that I talk about, people will talk about their bodies. Oh, I hate this fat. And I hate this and da 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 da. And it's like, but your body is literally everything that your body does is in your favor. You know what I mean? That's how we're
Oh,
designed. Your
true.
body
True.
loves you, and
Right.
everything that it's doing is because it's trying to sustain you the best it can. It's your
Right.
decisions that's causing you to
Right.
have these problems.
Right.
So
Right.
it's like, imagine this person who like always goes out of their way for you, thinks of you first in every
Mm-hmm.
aspect of their life, does everything to cater to you, and you just spit on them and you pee all over them and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't care about them. And it's like that's what
Right.
we're doing to our body when we're
Mm-hmm.
abusing substances and certain foods and certain consumption.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good point you made. I should probably clarify too, because 20 minutes ago I said, your body's trying to kill you. But what I meant was, because everything you said is right. We've got cells, the microbiome, everything is trying to bring us back to a spot of wholeness and health. But then there's this sinful nature, is what I probably should have referred, that wants to eat too much and drink too much. But the actual body itself, outside of this this spiritual component. The actual body itself is trying to repair itself. The mitochondria, the ATP creating energy in the cell, and how the immunity is responding. The body says, help me, basically help. I need some good food. I need some sleep. I mean, sleep is huge. I mean, sleep plays a big role in recovery, rejuvenation, how you feel. And it's just amazing to me, it's amazing to see how the body was created. It just screams creation, creator. There's something going on inside to control all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's sleep is a huge one. It's funny. People overlook the simplest solutions to their problems.
Yeah.
I saw a post. It was like it said your doctor is water, sunshine, sleep. You know what I mean? And I think they might have had like herbs and like healthy food or whatever. And it's true. It's very simple. If you look at nature, this is why I like nature, because I feel like, in a world where we just don't know up from down, nature is God. So when you look at nature, as long as we haven't like corrupted it, if you could go and you can look at like how nature kind of interacts, animals live very simple, easy lives. They're grounded to the earth. They drink fresh water from a river or stream. They eat natural foods. They don't do all this weird, we eat chemical foods now. Like that's a thing. Yeah. Like we make foods completely out of chemicals, toxic chemicals. And it tastes good, but it wreaks havoc on the body. So being able to get back to what's natural and understanding what that is, I think is very key.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head on so many different things. Number one is, I mean, if you researched many of those who passed away with COVID, a huge amount had a vitamin D deficiency. Also, they had other factors contributing to this, all health related. So the body was already in a decline. So the sunlight, vitamin D, natural vitamin D. I'm all for supplements, but I can't break it down right now. But synthetic versus getting it in your through the sun, let your body produce it is better than actually taking a pill that might have fillers, binders, processed, heated up.
Rat poison.
And so these rat poison, yeah. And then also you mentioned grounding is funny. People, it's not really a craze. I think it's wise when there's our body releases charges. And so the animals, the grounding, the cold water therapy, it kind of shocks the body. Eating what I call is life-giving food. Make it real simple for people. Does this food give you life? Is it life-giving? Like this carrot, this beta carotene, and this hummus, organic hummus, and this broccoli. Is it giving me life versus this? Even now Doritos are organic. My wife came home and said, "Look, Doritos are organic." I'm like, "Well, let's look at the back of this." And what people really need to watch out for is I knew this a couple of years ago, but it's coming out even more, is the seed oils. The canola, the safflower, the sunflower, all the seed oils, because they're highly processed. They are heated, then they become rancid, and then they have to use solvents and chemicals, and then we're taking in this. So even if it says organic safflower oil, organic canola oil, those are. I mean, we can talk about the inflammatory response. What about the omega 3, omega 6 ratio that's way off, and the body's we're getting 15 times more of the certain omega than we should. And all of that, this fat is not good fat. It's not the avocado, the olive oil, the coconut, and so just because something says all natural, or even organic chips and crackers, okay, organic sugar, organic flour that still might be processed, organic canola oil, and again, I'm not perfect. We have all this in our house too. I just try not to, like I bought a half a cow recently, grass-fed cow. A friend of mine gives me raw grass-fed goat milk. And I wish I could do it more often, but it's you try to do the best with what you can without getting too crazy. And what you said is so important, because I get the number one question I get, on nutrition, one of them is, okay, what supplement should I be taking? But they totally ignore everything you just said. Let me see. Yeah. Are you, and what I mean by sunlight, like, are you out there active? and just in the soil, working in the soil. I mean,
Yeah.
so much is good for you. And then the correct food and joy. And so I can tell you to take this supplement, but that's not going to do anything if these other factors aren't in play,
Mm-hmm. Lifestyle. I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
lifestyle.
it's
Lifestyle.
when you think about like our ancestors, they didn't have to go to the gym because they worked in the field, right? Like they grew
Absolutely.
their
Yeah.
own food, and it was part of their lifestyle. It wasn't like, oh, my life sucks.
hmm
Like we have this
hmm
idea that they were just
I know.
depressed. Depression
No.
is at an all-time high now when we have
Right.
the most comforts and conveniences. Like
Well, because we weren't designed to sit down and watch a computer screen. There's,
exactly. Exactly. Like building muscle and exercising or being active actually releases feel good hormones. So if you're
yeah.
depressed, move.
hmm
Like
Yes.
it's hard to be depressed when you're active and you're out around people and
hmm
you're working towards something positive, even if internally you feel a certain way. It's like fake it till
hmm
you make it, man.
Yeah,
If you're
absolutely.
depressed, go and force yourself to get out around
Walk.
people, walk,
Yeah.
play frisbee. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like fly a kite. You know what I mean? Force yourself to do things with people that have a positive
hmm
influence, and we can nip depression in the bud. But
Oh
we've
yeah.
designed in modern society, we've designed these creature comforts. I mean, I
hmm
remember like I used to be the remote control when I
hmm
was younger. We didn't
Yeah.
have
Get it.
remotes. My dad
Yeah.
or my mom be like, "Oh, turn it to channel 3." You know what I mean? You're like tuning
Yep.
it to channel 3. And now you don't even need to and then so what happened was we
Mhm.
got remotes and then we would lose our remotes. So
Yep.
now you can just do
Exactly.
everything from your phone.
hmm
It's
It's
weird.
crazy.
We don't even have to get up and look for the remote anymore. Because
Mm-mm.
back in the
Nope.
day, you remember you gotta lift the couch up, you gotta pull the like
Yes.
we're so lazy.
Well, I think what people need to know about this point, because it is actually profound. They say, "Oh yeah, I need to get out more. I need to exercise more." There's more to it than just that, because oxygen is so important. I'm not going to go into it now because you can do a study. You can do a Google search on oxygen deprived people versus oxygen deprived versus oxygen, and that's why have you heard of all this? This breathing now. That breathing deep, or what's his name, Winhoff, the Iceman.
Yeah.
And his breathe. The reason is you're taking in all that oxygen, that life-giving good oxygen. So when you get out and you walk, your oxygen uptake is increased, 3-4 fold than normal. So the body's getting this oxygen. Oxygen is great for fighting disease. It's great for the immune system. So you're
Mhm.
taking in more oxygen. You're outside. You're getting fresh air versus just sitting at home. And now your breathing is minimal. I mean, it's just enough oxygen to get in, even inside of a place where the air is really not that healthy. And so getting out, it's not just a matter of getting out. Yeah, I need to, this is why
Mhm.
it'll really, and you mentioned it too. I don't know how exactly the body does, but as you're exercising and the chemicals that are released, you
Mhm.
actually feel better. You feel there's joy comes from it, and
Mhm.
feeling better, and taking in all this God created oxygen is incredible. And so I think people need to get back to the basics. That could be a good topic for you in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, man, this has been just amazing. I think people really enjoy our conversation and our
Yeah,
discussion.
I got a
There's
lot of
so
great feedback last time. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. It just there's so
right.
you're extremely knowledgeable, um, and it's important for people to see these types of discussions because
Right,
there's nuggets everywhere. You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
And even
Well,
though we can't
also, oh, go ahead. Finish
I
thought.
was gonna say, even though we can't dive deep into every topic,
hmm
you can the viewers can say, okay, hey, okay, I'm interested in that. Let me go and research that a little bit more.
Right, right. Well, and I even think too, with what's going on in our country, even the racial divide, where people see, hey, we can love each other. Whatever the media is creating, and it's not as bad as what people are creating. We can have a healthy discussion. We love each other. To me, I look at my assistant pastor is black. He's a good friend of mine, and Hispanic. It's just if people see conversations like this, where people just can come together and put away all these preconceived ideas that the media is putting in term. I don't know
Mm,
why I felt desire to say that, but I think it's important because your audience and my audience, it's like cross pollinating.
True.
Have you heard that term in business? It's helping to just bring all ethnicities together and focus on what is true. Because you mentioned if they begin injecting that RNA messenger into food, I mean, we can all get on the same page about that and say that's just not even a good idea. It's
Right.
almost like they're forcing this this upon people. So I might want to look into that a little bit more, but maybe I'll wait because there's so much negativity right now.
It's a lot. It's a lot going on right now.
It's well,
I will say the thing that keeps me grounded is my friend group. It's I think
yes,
it can't be understated how important the people around you. So even with the world burning around us, when you have, good positive
mhm,
friends in your life, we're always looking for solutions. We're always uplifting
right,
each other. If any one of us fall, we'll pick each other back up. It's you got to have that. And people say, "Oh, Chris, you're
yes,
lucky to have these friends." No, I'm not. It was intention. Like
mhm.
I realized how important it was. There are people that I grew up with that I do not spend my time with anymore, even
Oh,
though they're good
absolutely,
friends. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Because
absolutely,
they're not the type of people that I want to go to the end of life with. And
right,
it's not because they're bad people. They're just not they're not moving in the direction that I'm moving in.
mhm,
Find
mhm,
people that want similar outcomes as you, that are positive and have a positive impact on you.
yeah,
I think that's why, church is going to be
mhm,
one of those places where you can maybe find those types of people. The
right,
AHA community is one of those places where you can find people of one mind. And that's a
right.
really, really powerful thing. So
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
yeah, this has been incredible. I appreciate you reaching out and
You too.
wanting to have
Yeah.
this again. I'm sure we'll be linking up again in the future. Um,
Perfect.
I do want to give people an opportunity, just for you to drop your socials or whatever
Oh,
you
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
available, and anything that you want to share, any projects or anything you've got.
I mean, they can find me at ShaneIdleman.com. I think the name is there on the front. ShaneIdleman.com, and of course Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Mainly it's spiritual things, preaching and pastoring and things like that. But also I'll release on my YouTube channel. We just started a Rumble channel and YouTube channel as well. Every now and then I'll do I'll release podcasts on health and fitness and different things. So that'll probably be the best thing. And then I'll send you the link in the description of this where people can see the free download to the books and the free fasting documentary we put together on the power of fasting and just what that does spiritually and physically. So any last thoughts? I would say, people need to be encouraged to fall forward like we began saying. It's good to end with that. Hey, get back on track. It is a lifestyle, and it's not easy. It
Mm,
is there's days I don't do too well, but you get back up, you keep falling or keep fighting as you're falling. And think about it, in 6 months from now, yeah, you might have blown it a few times, but you're much closer to your goal. And that's
mhm.
why I said when people, the hardcore fasting advocates are like, Shane, you can't even have gum. You can't have xylitol. You can't have 10 calories of bone broth. You'll knock you out of autophagy. Okay, well, my goal is not autophagy right now. My goal is to, you know, and so I got at the end of this fast. Okay, I didn't do it perfectly but I was down 37 pounds. I felt great physically and spiritually and mentally. And you accomplish your goals and don't let the negative Nellies and judgmental Jerrys and critical Kathys pull you down. I think
Yeah.
that's so important to stay focused on the right things. And you said everything. You got to be selective with your entertainment choices, with your friends. It's hard for me to be around negative people,
Mm.
that are just negative about the world, negative about what's going on, negative about, politics. And even though we got to be concerned about a lot of these things, we also have to be people that are full of hope and faith and love. And that's what I do because God radically changed my life when I repented and believed in Jesus. And, I've been on that road ever since. And it's not easy. I fall often, but you get back up and fight again.